Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is the Produce Moms Podcast. My name is Lori Taylor. I love hosting this show because I love the people that come on this show. Our guest today is Tamara Claunch, and she is the creator of the Brain Beautiful Method. This is going to be something that I think connects with lots of us. If you have anyone that you love who has battled Alzheimer's, you know what a debilitating disease that can be. My grandma battled it. And so I was immediately personally intrigued with what Tamara was doing. And this methodology that she has, created through her research and her industry expertise. So we're going to talk about what Tamara has taught me, which is you can prevent Alzheimer's. I didn't know that. I mean, I had a grandma who ended up in a nursing home and, lost, in my opinion, lost some of what's supposed to be those golden years of her life. Right. So it's been really fascinating for me to learn from Tamara, and we're going to bring her on the show today, and she's going to provide you all with this snapshot of what her work is all about and her research. And I think this is, it's going to be a great show. And I think that everyone who is with us at the Produce Moms Podcast, you're here because you're like me, you have a passion for all things fruits and vegetables. And surprise, surprise, Tamara has assured me that fruits and vegetables are part of this preventative process. There's no surprise with that. But with that, it's time for me to welcome our guest to the show. Tamara, thank you for being here. We are glad you're here. And please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Yeah, thank you, Lori. It's so nice to be here with you on the Produce Moms. This is just a fabulous podcast, and I'm so excited to be a guest. I'm the creator of the Brain Beautiful Method. The Brain Beautiful Method is Alzheimer's defense grounded in whole person wellness. So we really combine digital courses with one-on-one personalized coaching, health coaching, and work with some behavior design components to craft a personalized brain health roadmap across all these different areas of Alzheimer's risk.
So I know this because when I first met you in Cincinnati, and you were explaining to me what you did, I was like, so why are you doing it? What's your personal connection to it? But I'd like you to share that story, please, with our listeners.
Yeah, sure. Like you, my first experience with Alzheimer's left me with a really sad view of the disease. My grandmother passed away in 2008 from Alzheimer's related complications. And, as we watched her get sicker and sicker over the years, there was nothing we could do to help. It was a very helpless, sad situation. Mm-hmm. And, that also left me worrying, well, like, is this how I'm going to end up? I mean, my great grandmother, my grandmother, is this going to come down in the family to me? And is there anything I can do? Is this just the, luck of the draw, the roll of the dice, or is there something we can do? And there is a phenomenal amount of research being done at an international level that unfortunately hasn't really trickled down to clinical practice guidelines. So I just kind of committed to digging in and reading this research, reading as much as I could, and working to reduce my own risk. And turns out there's a lot that we can do. And so I used to own an in-home non-medical care agency. I opened that up when I left oil and gas. I wanted to help other families like us in our local community. They were going through these really tough times with their loved ones. And so I had an agency that went in and took care of people that were sick or dying or recovering from surgery. And I worked with an organization called the Center for Applied Research in Dementia. And they were really, really active in late stage Alzheimer's, taking like a therapeutic rehabilitative approach to enable people to learn to feed themselves again, to be able to communicate, even like really late into the disease progression. And that was my first kind of aha moment of, wait a minute, there's actually stuff that we can do to communicate, to improve people's lived experience, even late in the disease process. And so that was kind of my first glimmer of hope, was the great work that they're doing over at the Center for Applied Research in Dementia. And over the next years, I worked with other organizations like Dementia Alliance International and Apollo Health, and really crystallized my understanding of how can we protect against Alzheimer's and how can we improve people's lived experience once they're already living with a diagnosis. And so I've been kind of working and reworking, and then culminating in this new brand of micro courses that I've released.
That's great. So would you say that your expertise came more so from that grassroots point of view? Did you personally study this at any sort of level, or is this more of, I became personally affected by this and I'm going to dive in and figure out what's out there so that I can be more informed and help my family, help myself? Yeah,
100%. It was really taking a look at my own self as like a living laboratory, and like, how can I protect myself? And I'm not a scientist by training. I have a background in education and in management and in communication, which has been very helpful in what I do, but I don't have that science background, but I don't need to. There's so much research being done, and there's so many people that have what I'm looking for, but we just have to really look for it and learn how to apply it in the real world, which can be a challenge sometimes.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I think it's great that you have found this passion and you've devoted a level of, such a unique level of commitment to deciphering the research that's out there, compiling it, and putting together, a programmatic call to action for folks that can connect with the story you shared, the story I shared, or simply, have observed maybe they've observed the disease more from afar. Maybe it hasn't been so intimate in their own family, but, certainly I feel like most folks can say, yep, I would like to avoid that if I can. And here we are with a program that says it is something you can build up a defense towards, All right. So tell us more about what this program is. What is the Brain Beautiful method? You mentioned a course. I want to hear more about it. I want our listeners to have clarity on exactly what it is that you do.
Sure. Absolutely. So we have currently got 6 digital courses available, and we have 3 more coming out right now. So the first 4 are called the Essentials. So this is Move, Nourish, Rest, and Calm. This is all about nutrition and exercise and stress management and sleep. These are the core of defense against Alzheimer's. If you get these things right, you can cut your risk by up to 60%. So we really, really want to start with this foundation of the essentials. And then once we got that foundation built, then we can look at, amplifying our neurogenesis. So the birth of new brain cells, the creation of new connections between brain cells, really boosting that potential within the brain, as well as, facilitating our detoxification pathway. So that's kind of the main, the 4 plus the 4 essentials plus the 2 amplify and clean courses. So how it works is you go on, you do this digital course, and it's mobile compatible. So you can do it on your phone, your iPad, or you can do it on your desktop. It's broken down into tiny bits. So 2 minutes, 5-minute videos, so that you can get to it when you have a few minutes in your day. And you go through this course, and it's about an hour of content total in each of the digital courses. And then when you complete the course material, as you go through it, so you learn all the really great content about how does nutrition affect Alzheimer's risk? And what are some practical ways that I can use nutrition to reduce my Alzheimer's risk? Same thing with physical activity. What's the relationship between physical activity and Alzheimer's? What's the relationship between stress? What's the relationship between sleep? All of these components and Alzheimer's. And then some practical ways to bring little changes into your life. And then we go through a design a behavior design portion of the course. So all this happens before you ever meet with your coach. So you learn the content and then you do some work on the back end, kind of getting ready to meet with your coach. Then you meet one-on-one on the phone or through Zoom with your health coach. And we have an hour-long session to help draft your brain health roadmap. And so each course comes with one deep coaching session. And participants can also sign up for the lab, which is kind of our ongoing support. So you meet with a coach twice a month for some rapid coaching sessions. You get really connected in with a community of people like you who are also on this journey through our forum, and be able to, I have a monthly Ask Me Anything session. So we really try to keep that dialogue going, because it's not a static one size fits all solution. This all about what's happening in your body, what's happening in your life, and how to make this, specifically precise and applicable in your real world.
Sure. So I like the fact that you mentioned there's basically 4 silos or modules that you start with: physical activity, sleep, stress, nutrition. All right. So I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into each of those 4, because that is the foundation of everything, the Brain Beautiful method, correct?
Absolutely. Those are the essentials. That's where we have so much of the science behind this, right? That's where we can just drastically reduce your risk. If you get these 4 areas right, you can cut your risk by up to 60%, which is amazing. Even if you have a genetic predisposition towards Alzheimer's, you can still drastically affect your risk. And if you have a diagnosis—
Did you say by 60%?
By 60%. Yes.
Wow.
So, there's a 2019 study, food, exercise, not smoking, not having unhealthy alcohol patterns, and engaging in cognitive stimulation activities can reduce it's the combination. It's not like if I do this one, it's going to cut it by 20% and this one by 20%. It's really creating the conditions in the body that support good health. And so that good health is going to express itself as, lower risk for Alzheimer's, lower risk for diabetes, lower risk for heart disease, lower risk for cancer. It's all the same kind of thing. The body is just expressing— when it's unhappy, it expresses differently based on your genetic predisposition. So this 2019 study tracked 2,765 individuals over a decade, and it was all compiled by Rush University Medical Center. And this shows that you have a 60% reduction in Alzheimer's by eating better, exercising more, not smoking, drinking alcohol responsibly, and engaging in cognitive stimulation behaviors. So this is linked on my website if you'd like to read more information.
That's great. All right. So so physical activity, I feel like that's pretty, like, people know, like, body movement, but is there any sort of specific physical activity that you call out in the Brain Beautiful method?
Well, it's all about getting that blood flowing and being, regular physical activity, just being part of your lifestyle, and, you have to get at least 150 minutes of, moderate to intense physical activity a week. That's like global standard guidelines. And what we like to work on is, you have to like what you're doing, right? So it's the consistency. So when you're talking about physical activity, if you hate going to the gym, well, then find something different besides going to the gym. Find something that's true to who you are, that you enjoy. But the key is you got to get that blood flowing. You got to get that blood pumping up and bringing those nutrients into your brain, delivering that oxygen to those vital organs. So high intensity interval training is fantastic. That's a really good way for people to have short bouts of really intense, vigorous energy, vigorous exercise that doesn't have to take all day, to get done.
So if you're a 60-year-old person with early stage dementia, I don't think that a 20-minute HIIT session is exactly in your repertoire. What would you recommend at the Brain Beautiful method?
Walking. We are, as humans, we are designed to walk. We're designed to move. So get out there and get your steps in. That's the best thing to start doing, is just tracking, like, how many steps are you getting in a day? And then start to increase that number a little bit at a time.
Okay. Great. Let's go on to the second module then, sleep. This is one that I never get enough of. I can tell you right now. This is my lack of sleep is definitely putting me at risk for many categories. And it's also, I can feel it in my body as I'm now, 40 years old. I know that I'm not getting enough sleep, and I'm certainly not getting enough quality sleep. There's far too many nights I go to bed stressed out, which I know is another silo we'll get to. Or I've got a million things on my mind. Like I just don't have that. My mind doesn't rest the way that it should. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about what the Brain Beautiful method says about sleep specifically.
Yeah. So sleep is just hugely important. And when you don't sleep enough, a lot of things don't work right. One of the most important functions of sleep is cleaning out the brain at night. So when we go to sleep at night, and we get into deep sleep, then cerebrospinal fluid actually washes across the surface of the brain and carries away all of this detritus, which is actually like trash left over. Every thought you have every day, every word you speak, all of this is a chemical reaction in the brain, which leaves behind like trash that needs to be washed away. So when we don't get enough sleep cycles and we don't go deep enough into our sleep cycles, this waste removal process doesn't happen properly, which leaves this stuff on the surface of the brain, which creates an inflammatory response. The brain starts to throw off protective mechanisms, eventually ending up with the kind of hallmark, plaques and tangles of Alzheimer's disease. So, getting enough sleep is really important for cleaning out the brain, as well as, chronic inflammation is a big part of it. So when we're stressed and we're not sleeping, our body is angry. It's this chronic inflammation, which is the breeding ground for all manner of chronic disease, including Alzheimer's.
Yes. And as you're talking about like the chronic inflammation and the body not resting, like I am really connecting the dots with my lifestyle, which is not a good thing, but I'm like, oh my God, I drink 10 cups of coffee a day. I don't sleep well. Like it is not good. So I'm listening, I'm learning what in the Brain Beautiful method, what do you say the target should be for an adult as it relates to hours of sleep? 7 to 8 hours is going to be good for an adult. Yes. Okay. Yeah. And I'm sure I think I probably know the answer to this, but what's your opinion on like devices in the bedroom, like screen time? Is there a correlation? Because we hear about that a lot with pediatrics. We don't necessarily hear a whole lot about that as it relates to adults. But what about, like people have their phones by their bedside, especially in an era where more people don't have home phones. Mm-hmm. So, for emergency calls in the middle of the night, your cell phone is it. But what is is there anything that you recommend as it relates to cutting off screen time before bedtime?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to create an environment. We want to train our brain to go to sleep when we get into bed. And so we create these associations. So if I'm laying in bed and I'm scrolling on my phone, then my brain is associating being on my phone with being in bed. Like we want our bed to be exclusively reserved for sleep and for sex, basically. Mm-hmm. And outside of that, we want to keep the blue light down. Blue light is emitted from our screens. It's emitted from our LED light bulbs. That actually stops the production of melatonin in the brain. So when blue light enters in through the eyes, it stops the production of melatonin in the brain. Well, that melatonin helps us sleep and maintain our healthy sleep-wake cycles. So, we're wearing blue light glasses starting at sunset every night, keeping that screen time down. But it's also this, like when you're laying in bed and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what about this? What about that? What about this? And we have that phone right next to us. Plug it in the bathroom and, or plug it in the kitchen and
far enough away on the nightstand where you can't reach it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So great tips. I kind of feel like stress and sleep. Let's talk about that one next, and then we'll dive into nutrition. So stress, oh my gosh, like life without stress, does that even exist? But help me understand how we are supposed to compartmentalize that for a healthy brain.
For sure. And, I love that. It's you're right. There's no such thing as like a stress-free life. That's not real. It's about effectively navigating stress in our day-to-day life. Our stress response, that fight or flight that kicks on, that was designed to keep us alive. It kept your ancestors alive, mine alive, otherwise we wouldn't be here. But that stress response was designed to save our lives from danger. And so it activates and then it turns off. That's how it's designed. Well, these days, the majority of the stresses or stressors are coming from inside of our mind. It's about us, rehashing the past, rehearsing the future, all of these thoughts that we're having. And so when the thoughts don't stop, that stress response doesn't ever turn off, and we never get right back into homeostasis. So we're staying hyperactivated, which creates all sorts of like cascading issues, including really strongly raising our risk for Alzheimer's. So it's not about like living in some magical world where we don't have stress anymore. It's about effectively navigating it and being able to switch out of that sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight response, into that parasympathetic rest and digest function. And there's simple ways you can do that throughout the day. I could show you an example.
Yeah, yes.
You want to try something?
A stress crushing example. I'm all in. I'm sure our listeners are too.
Let's do a stress crushing example. So this is called square breathing, and so we forget to breathe properly a lot. And one of the really cool things about the human body, so the vagus nerve is the longest nerve in our body, and it actually is like the master switch. So when we stimulate the vagus nerve, it immediately switches us out of that sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight response, into the parasympathetic rest and digest function. So it like immediately throughout the whole body switches off this stress response. So there's a lot of scientists are looking at like, okay, well, how do we make implants to stimulate the vagus nerve? Well, one way to stimulate the vagus nerve is by diaphragmatic breathing. So slow, controlled breathing that involves the diaphragm. So what we're going to do with square breathing is we're going to do some slow diaphragmatic breathing. So just practice with me really quick, because most of the time
I'm on the mic. So
most of the time we breathe with our chest. That's upper chest breathing, that shallow breathing. That's not moving our diaphragm. In order to move your diaphragm when you're breathing, your belly's got to move in and out. So take a deep breath with me. In. You should feel your belly going out. Breathe out. Your belly should collapse in. If you put your hand against your belly, you can feel it. Belly's going out as you breathe in. Belly's coming in. And we do this crazy upper chest breathing. So we always want to look skinny all the time. So we like hold our belly. Forget it. Let's just let our belly move in and out like it's supposed to. So for the square breathing, we're going to breathe in for a count of 4. We're going to hold at the top for a count of 4. Breathe out for a count of 4. And hold at the bottom for a count of 4. And we're going to do a few cycles of that.
So you're literally talking about 12 seconds.
16 seconds. So yeah. So 4 in, hold 4, 4 out, hold 4, 4.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Okay.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. So let's breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Close your eyes. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. So if we just repeat that 5 or 6 times, anytime we're feeling super stressed, you can feel this just wave come across your body. And what that is your sympathetic nervous system is handing things over to your parasympathetic nervous system. And it just changes everything that's happening inside of your body. So we have to remember to do it. And we have to kind of give ourselves that space to just take 30 seconds for ourselves. But if we can learn to do this throughout the day, then we can take down that physical response, which is going to help defend against Alzheimer's.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. I think we took less than a minute there to do that series, and you can already feel it. So that's amazing. And, as the onset of anxiety and nervousness and stress since March 2020, as the COVID pandemic had changed so much in our lives. These stress busting strategies, they're more important than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I liken it to a waterfall. Like if you've ever been like where there's a waterfall, just this falling water, and it's constant. That's how thoughts really are. It's just this constantly cascading waterfall of thoughts. And so stress navigation isn't about turning that waterfall off. Stress navigation is about taking a step back. The waterfall is still happening, but we're not getting bombarded by it. So that's really, we work to get some space in there.
Yeah. So let's talk about nutrition. Obviously, that's where the fresh produce will fit in. And we talked kind of extensively about the nutrition module when you and I first met, and on that beautiful day in Cincinnati. But I want you to share more about the nutrition module with our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. This is my very, very favorite one. I could talk about this forever and ever. And I mean, produce is the key. I mean, that's what it is. The way that we eat today does not line up with how our bodies are designed to eat. So this mismatch is what really causes so many of our diseases. So we really want to work on eating in a more ancestral way. And if you can imagine, like if I had a magic wand, I can make everybody eat in a brain beautiful way. And you look at their plate, half of the plate is going to be fresh, green, leafy vegetables. And we're going to incorporate, probiotics. Prebiotics like jicama, things like this that feed that healthy gut bacteria. But produce is the key. So, meat really should be like a condiment, like a side dish. But vegetables, non-starchy vegetables, really is the key foundation of Brain Beautiful nutrition. Eating a rainbow, eating seasonal produce, trying. I love the produce moms. Your challenges that you put out there. Try something new. Go to the store and find something you have no idea what it is. Grab it and try to cook it. The key, as well as the low glycemic. So many of us are living with metabolic disorders. So we have, high blood sugar, chronically high blood sugar, maybe, pre-diabetes or diabetes. So until we have this metabolic flexibility and we're insulin sensitive, we want to really make sure that we watch out for starchy vegetables, but green leafy vegetables, 6 to 9 cups a day. We need to be eating tons of it. And that's where the nutrients are. People want to take vitamins, but we want the most bioavailable nutrition. The nutrients and minerals that are available in produce is what is going to help your body be happy and healthy and reduce the risk for Alzheimer's.
Yeah. And 9 cups a day of fruits and 9 cups a day of vegetables. That's tough. We can't get 90% of Americans to eat, 4 cups a day.
Yeah.
So it's important to emphasize to folks, just add one more and you're doing a really good, you're Absolutely. Similar to your sentiments with like the steps, right? More steps per day, each and every day. And eventually your runway will bring you to that target. Very Absolutely. Similar with what you're discussing right now with nutrition, because it can feel so daunting. I know this from the work that we've done at the Produce Moms, my own personal life, raising children. It is not easy to go from a lifestyle where you're not eating the recommended amounts to actually eating an abundant amount, which is what this is. Your module would 9 cups a day would be considered an abundant amount of fresh leafy greens.
Yeah, 100%. And it's really about moving away from this standard American diet where we have all these, processed foods, really high in saturated fats, lots of red meats, lots and lots and lots of sugar. It's moving away from that in the direction that you want to go. And so it's no pressure, no problem. You're 100% right. Taking steps in the right direction, little steps over time have tremendous results. So it's about bringing in little changes that fit in with our real world. And with the Brain Beautiful method, that's what it's all about, is how to make this work in the real world. But we have to be accountable, right? We've got to look at it. We've got to look at it and be honest with ourselves and be willing to be like, okay, actually, I am not eating like I really want to eat. And how can I bring some small improvements that are going to make a big difference?
Right. No, it's fantastic. So I mean, I appreciate all of your clarification on these 4 steps, the deep dive into each of these, core modules. I know you mentioned that there's a couple other things coming. There's an expansion of these modules. So I'd like you to kind of, explain what that looks like, what's ahead, or what can folks expect beyond these 4 modules within the Brain Beautiful method?
Yeah, sure. So I like to use this analogy. So the Brain Beautiful method, I ask people to put on 2 hats. One is a scientist and one is a gardener. So imagine your body is a living laboratory, like it's like in a greenhouse, and you walk in the front door of this living laboratory, this greenhouse that is you. And there's 4 essential crops that you want to be growing there. And that's nutrition, that's exercise, that's stress navigation, and that's, restorative sleep. So those are going to be your essentials. So the paths that go down, and you water these crops, you carry away the trash. This is our amplify and clean module. So the amplify is that neurogenesis, neuroplasticity, synaptogenesis piece, really boosting that capacity of the brain to grow and develop over the course of our lifetime. Then we have the clean module, which is all about supporting our natural detoxification pathways in the body. And then we move on to the I call them the fruits. This is connect, restore, and discover. So much of our lives, we're like, oh, I can't wait till I retire. I can't wait till I retire. Well, we have got to have a reason to get out of bed every day for the rest of our lives. It's so important for us to have roles and purpose and meaningful connections in our own home, within our communities, with the wider world. And so we really bring in this fruits. They may not necessarily be essential to life, but studies show that loneliness, chronic loneliness, can raise your risk of Alzheimer's tremendously. So we work across that whole person. So it's not just the food, it's not just the exercise. It's also, who are you as a human? And do you have passion and purpose in your life throughout the entire life course, not ending at retirement? That's something that I think we really need to be paying attention to is, life doesn't end at retirement. Life doesn't end at 65. We've got a lot of life, and there's a lot of potential there to live a rich, dynamic, engaged, purposeful life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. I love it. Well, Tamara, this has been a wonderful conversation. Big fan of what you have done here with the Brain Beautiful method. I believe in the approach that you're taking. I mean, I think obviously you mentioned the Produce Challenge calendar. The Produce Challenge is, we've tapped into a few things that get people to respond through that monthly tool. One is people like, they like a call to action. They like to know what's next. What do I do? And beyond that, they kind of like a challenge too. The gamification of what, is something that humans instinctively respond to. So it's, I believe in the module you've set forth and the process, and it sounds like it doesn't really end with just the course. That's kind of just the very beginning. Then you get into your health coaching and your brain coaching, and it's really fascinating. I've never really seen anything like this. So I wish you the best of success as you continue to, spread your impact, grow what you're doing. I want to invite folks to visit thebrainbeautifulmethod.com or connect with what they're doing at The Brain Beautiful on Instagram and all social platforms. So Tamara, with that, I thank you for being part of this show. Thank you for the great work that you're doing. It's so important. It'll help people in many ways. Anyone who is participatory in this, it's without doubt that their quality of life is going to improve. And hey, that statistic that's rooted in that research that you've done and that you've studied, I should say, rather than what you've completed. I love your approach. You've taken all of the studies from various experts in the clinical world and the research world and the education sector. And that is what your process is rooted in. So gosh, the 60% stat still, despite this entire conversation, that is one that really sticks with me. And I hope that everyone listening with us today, that sticks with you as well. But with that, Tamara, you get the final word, the closing remarks, the last goodbye to our audience. I'm glad that you were here. Thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lloyd. This has been just great. And, the work that you're doing over there at the Produce Moms, the work that we're doing over here at the Brain Beautiful Method. I mean, the system is not set up to facilitate wellness and health. And we really have to be informed consumers of our own health. And there's a lot of great work being done in research. And my goal is to help connect regular people with this amazing research and help make a difference in their lives and help reduce the global burden of Alzheimer's. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And thank you so much for having me on today. It's been just a great time. Great to see you again.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to Lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.